Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor of Cars Jubilee, today with a head-to-head between my Ioniq 5 and this Model Y. Let's get to it. Well, number one would be price. My top spec Ioniq 5 here is $57,000. That red Tesla Model Y, which is actually kind of towards the lower spec, is $70,000. Now, just for reference, the price range for the Ioniq 5 starts at $40,000 and goes up to $57,000. That Tesla Model Y starts at around $66,000, but then goes all the way up to about $87,000. Now, what else does the Ioniq 5 have that the Model Y doesn't? Well, a 360-degree camera system is one, with multiple views. It also has a rear cross-traffic safety tech, meaning when someone steps behind your car and the car is moving, in the Ioniq 5, it'll actually slam on the brakes for you. It'll also detect as they're approaching. Now, the Ioniq 5 also has normal blind spot monitors, sensors, and warnings. It also has access to Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and it also provides a very quiet, smooth, relaxed ride that would remind you of a luxury European car that costs much more. Now, I already talked about in my first impressions the noise level in the Model Y, and in fact, just the other day, my wife and I were in the car with our son and just having a normal conversation between driver and passenger in the second row. And just in the middle of the conversation, I said, "Hey, does it sound like I'm yelling? Because I feel like I'm yelling." And that's because of just how loud it was in the Model Y cabin. Now, obviously, we've gotten used to the Ioniq 5's cabin, and it's just super, super quiet. Then there's also these regen paddles here on the back. And these might be one of the best things about the Ioniq 5, and that's the ability to actually change your regen setting on the fly, and you can actually bring this car to a full stop just by using these paddles. And that's something the Model Y just does not offer, as it only has one pedal drive. What else does this Ioniq 5 have? Well, right now I am enjoying the ventilated seats. It's hot out. This car's been baking in the sun. I've got the ventilated seats on and my back is nice and cool. It also has a shade for the sunroof. Now, with the Model Y, it doesn't come with a shade. That's not an option. And when it gets really hot out, that's an issue. Also, if you have toddlers napping in the back, that sun gets in. That's an issue as well. Next, the Ioniq 5 also has pop-out handles. And, you know, at least for me, I just find it easier to open. I can open it with just a finger. In fact, any finger. Let me show you. Let's try my pinky. Yep, any finger. And lastly, what else does this Ioniq 5 do that Model Y just doesn't? This thing grabs attention. Even after 6 months of driving around in this neighborhood or driving around Philadelphia, without fail, anywhere I go, people turn their heads, people say things like, "Whoa." You know, it's an attention grabber. Now, what about the Model Y? Now, what does this Model Y have that Ioniq 5 doesn't? Well, for one, it has the option for a 7-seat configuration, and I think that's really cool. Also, this thing has a usable frunk, meaning with just a single press of this button, I can get it to open. Whereas with my Ioniq 5, I have to essentially undo or operate 3 separate latches to access a tiny little frunk that I honestly can't put much in. Also, the Model Y has Sentry mode so that you can record what's going on around your car when you're not there. It also has dog mode to keep your dog cool. And let's be clear, the Ioniq 5 does not have dog mode. Now, obviously people have tried to find workarounds And I don't really think there is one. I've seen one where someone says you basically lock the car from the inside, you lower your window, you climb out, and then you put the window back up, and you're good. I mean, I guess that works. Let me know in the comments below if it actually works, but I don't think I'd want to do that. Then there's also phone as key or watch as key. Now with the Tesla, obviously I don't have access to it because I'm using it as a rental. All I have is a key card, but I already know I basically have my phone in my pocket. As I approach the car, it's going to unlock, and then I just jump in and the car's ready to go. That's not the case with the Ioniq 5. With the Ioniq 5, it's something like this. And there's more. There's games and other stuff to keep my son occupied and to keep me occupied. And I think that's something that Tesla really knocked it out of the park with. You know, they realized people spend a lot of time in cars, not always moving. Sometimes you're just sitting there and you need to pass time. Well, this thing does that with games and Sketchpad and a whole bunch of random and silly stuff that's just fun. And I think Hyundai really is missing out on a great opportunity to have an entertainment system in the car, which is essentially what this is. You know, the Ioniq 5 is already an amazing car to spend time in from a driver's perspective, even from just a sitting there and lounging and napping perspective. But they could enhance it even more if they were to actually throw some fun things into their system. The Model Y also has built-in Google Maps, and that's just phenomenal. It also has full self-driving if you pay for it. Also, it handles like a much smaller car. Now remember, this Model Y is bigger than the Ioniq 5, but it handles and it feels like a much smaller car. The steering is very heavy, but it's very direct, very responsive. You feel everything, which can be good or bad. But I will say it's fun, not just in straight line acceleration, but it's fun to actually toss around and throw around. The Ioniq 5 handles like a boat, a very big boat, a very fast boat, but still a very big boat. Steering is light and it's vague and it's not very communicative. It's pretty numb. Now, what about the seats? Well, seat comfort is actually where I have to hand it to this Tesla Model Y. As a person with a bad back, these seats have been very comfortable. I was quite surprised. Now, obviously, there's no ventilated seats, but they're comfortable. My Ioniq 5, on the other hand, has ventilated seats, but not quite as comfortable. So if I had to pick, do I want ventilated seats or do I want the more comfortable seats? Well, honestly, for my back, I would have to pick these more comfortable seats, even though they're pretty much always in a constant state of dampness. Like right now, it's a little wet. So now that we've kind of done that head to head, what are some things that these two cars actually do about the same? Well, number one would be autopilot versus HDA2. I'd say overall, I think most people will be happy with either system. They both do a very good job of keeping you in your lane and also maintaining distance from the car ahead of you to a full stop and then resuming again. Now, there are things about both that I would say are not perfect, but overall I'd still say these two are probably two of the best systems out there. Now, I will have a separate video where I'm going to take a deeper look at both, and that'll be coming soon. So stay tuned for that. But what else do they do about the same? Motor whine. Now, I would say the Tesla's is a little bit louder, but the frequency is lower, so less high pitched. The Ioniq 5, on the other hand, is a little more quiet, but it's a higher pitch. So take that into account. I would say test driving is a must for both of these if motor whine is something you think could be an issue. Now, an interesting thing is with the Model Y, I started hearing the motor whine around 45 miles an hour. With my Ioniq 5, I don't really hear it until I hit about 60 miles per hour. So again, I think a test drive is a must. Next would be charging speed. They both maxed out at around 240 to 250 kilowatts, best case scenario. Now, remember, it depends on a lot of things. The temperature of the battery, the charging station, is it going to give you that full max speed, and also the charging curve. But all in all, they both charge very quickly. Now, one thing you might notice that I haven't talked about at all is the efficiency. And that's because, again, I have another video coming where I feel like I've discovered something that's kind of shocking, and that has to do with efficiency comparing the Model Y with the Ioniq 5. So stay tuned for that as well. So maybe after all that, you're still having a hard time deciding, well, which one makes more sense for me? Well, let me break it down this way. If you need luggage space, if you need interior cabin space, the Model Y is just a bigger car. If you need 7 seats in a pinch, the Model Y is the one that offers that option. Now, if you value tech features like Sentry Mode, Dog Mode, Full Self-Driving, and you want some games, well, the Model Y is going to provide a much more tech-driven experience, and it has most of those things that you would want. It also has that super clean, super minimalistic interior with a very simple, just get in and drive ability. Now, the cons are that everything's buried in that center screen. Some people care, some people don't. But you also don't get any choice in your regen level because this thing is one pedal drive all the time. That's it. Also, another con is you are getting a pretty loud interior cabin, and that doesn't quite match the price point of a $66,000 to $87,000 vehicle. Also, the fit and finish, while not bad, might not quite match what you would expect from a $66,000 to $87,000 vehicle. Well, what about this Ioniq 5? Well, what we have here is just a crazy looking EV at a pretty affordable price point starting at $40,000. It also has an amazing regen system with paddles that lets you choose on the fly what you want, when you want. It also gives you excellent interior space with an excellent second row that I would say still somewhat rivals the Model Y. And you also get a super luxurious ride that just reminds you of being in a luxury European car because it's quiet and because it's smooth. What do you lose out on then? Well, for one, storage space. For my family of 5, we just simply do not fit with all of our luggage in the Ioniq 5 for a weekend getaway. Whereas with the Model Y, I think we could. So this is just a much less tech-driven car. As you know, the apps and phone as key, they just don't work very well. The user experience overall, from the app standpoint, from the infotainment standpoint, it's just not quite as good. Then there's the actual driving abilities. It's just not a sporty handling car. Even though it's got some good quickness, good speed, it's just not sporty. And the last part, which is probably the worst part, is just trying to find this car, especially if you only want to buy it at MSRP. Trying to find a limited all-wheel drive or a limited rear-wheel drive car at MSRP, good luck. Basically, it'll take a lot of time and a lot of patience, and that's up to you whether you want to do that. Otherwise, with the Model Y, you just go online and you order it, and you wait. Now, you might be thinking, personally for me, why did I go with this Ioniq 5? Well, for one, I think I would have been happy with either, but price and budget were kind of what stepped in. This Ioniq 5 we were able to buy at MSRP, and we bought it while the tax credits were still available. So essentially, I bought this thing for about $50,000, whereas if I had tried to buy this at that time, $70,000. And at the time, I just couldn't fathom paying $70,000 for an EV, at least not yet. Now, as you know, I ended up buying a GV60 Performance, which, what do you know, costs about $70,000. That's actually coming soon. I'm going to have a head-to-head between this Model Y, which stickers at $70,000, compared to my GV60 Performance, which also stickers at $70,000. So in that sense, it'll be a more fair comparison. But on the other hand, those two cars are actually even more polar opposites. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for those other videos. Please subscribe, please like, please support the channel. See you guys in the next one.